Yeah? For what it's worth, every time I have one of these, especially when I've got a really big one coming up, like I had yesterday, where it's a really important call, I'll sit down and I'll kind of try to suss it out with a few people I really trust, and I would really encourage you to do that as well. If you've got that new dealership that could be the biggest dealership of the year, take a little time to talk over with a couple of your colleagues. Say, hey, these are some of the questions that I thought I would ask them. This is what the solution that I want to present. What's your opinion? Because it's the benefit of having all those different people is like a market test for a movie or for a commercial. Does that make sense? Right? You never know what people are going to tell you from the results of that movie or from that commercial. And so it's super important to put your ideas in front of a group before you have that one big presentation. Does that make sense? So we have a group that's going to present to us their ideas for their particular person. So Lisa, who in your group were you? Whose buyer were you working on? It was yours? Awesome. So Lisa's going to talk us through a little bit. So let's give Lisa a great big round of applause. Just to make Lisa's life easier, I'm going to give her some tape so she can put this up on the wall.
Well, I'll
Here's your
tell you
Christmas
about
present.
the background of my customer here. I mean, my
Who's your dealer?
his name is Spencer. He's at an independent one-stop auto, Louisiana. The situation is that when we did the took the hot car off, his deal funded, and he wound up losing $400 because it was a Nissan, and we didn't pay him out correctly when we got ready to fund the deal. So he calls in and cusses me out.
Wow.
And goes off and tells us that we're not watching our deals and we're not, but it basically, to boil it down, it was just basically a glitch in the system because we didn't know that it was going to pay out like that. Some people had the same issue, So this guy, he's the salesman, the sales manager. But the F&I guy calls me and says, hey, I understand Stephen called me and he says, I understand Spencer went off on you, but please, whatever you do, don't shut us off. So, because he says he went down to the credit union and went off on the lady at the credit union and they cut us off. So, we need you. This is what he's telling me, we need you. So, then Spencer called me back. This went on for like 3 or 4 days about him whining and crying about how we shorted him the $400 and, we're horrible and blah, 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 blah. Even Elsie had to talk to him. So, it was just on and on. So
what's the purpose of this call that you're asking these questions for? So what's the call now that you're going to be asking these questions for?
To get to now, which is, so this doesn't happen again, and so that you know what we're buying, because he's one of these guys that's really detailed to the point where, what's the 70-30 split, and what's the numbers, and what do you do, and then, so I was like, hey, you say you know CPS, but I don't think you know CPS as well as you think you do. And so these are the questions that's when I talk to him.
So maybe we're not going to say it, but basically we're trying to help this guy understand. We're basically trying to sell him on some training we're going to provide.
Right.
Is it tough to sell training?
Yes.
Yeah. So difficult thing. So that's the point of the sale, though.
Right.
If the guy will listen to us long enough for us to coach and train him a little bit, we can potentially really help him and do a lot more business with him.
The other background
we have to earn that
problem
right.
with this guy is that he comes from a franchise store, and per Steven, the F&I guy, he made $1 million+ in 2006. And he's always made extra money. But he lives in a trailer and sleeps on the floor at his sister's house and on and on. And he tells me, the F&I guy tells me this whole backstory on it. So here it is circa today. He's, a struggling, hungry salesman that is like, attacking when he's shorted just $400. Because it's killing him,
This is an interesting one, right? One of the things that sometimes happens in people's lives is that their situation dramatically changes.
Right.
Right? And I have a friend who's a transaction attorney, right? So this transaction attorney used to make $1 million plus a year. And he was recently divorced. And he's got 3 kids. And his wife, you know, they had a nice home up in Vancouver. And when they went to court, it was not, let's just say it was not friendly to my friend, right? I mean, he basically ended up in a situation where he was paying more alimony and child support than he made, right? And so suddenly this guy who was used to living very high on the hog had the tables totally turned on him, right? Not saying you should feel sorry for a guy like that. What I am saying, though, is that understand that sometimes these situations dramatically change. And it helps us to try to understand where they're coming from and maybe walk a mile in their shoes mentally, right? Empathize. Whether you think they're right or whether you think they're crazy. Now, I'll tell you, my friend Chris, I think he's a little bit crazy. I know his wife, I know his kids, but you know, he's gotten himself in a bad situation. I can understand where he's coming from and try to help. And so that, to me, is probably where our head needs to be as we go into this series of questions. So let's see what we're going to ask. What's the person's name again? It's not Steve. Spencer. Okay.
So you know, I asked him, well, what lenders are you using, and why are these lenders that you're using comfortable for you? That's spell comfortable.
Yeah.
What lenders are you using now, and why are you comfortable with them, or why are they comfortable for you? What do you think? It's a darn good question, right? Nice job to that group. Let's give them a quick round of applause. Here's with another gem. What else you got here?
Do you have the inventory to match your type of customer? Because they're in Louisiana and they've just went through this big giant flood. They have all these people coming onto their lot, and you know, he's like, well, I need a car, you know, and I'm like, they don't qualify for a $6,900 car. Do you have a $6,900 car on your lot? You know,
nice.
Help me out.
How well does your inventory match your customer base, right? And these are always questions that we can refine and get better at. How many of us feel like we could use that question in our selling? Yeah, nice job. Talk us through a should be and a barrier question, and I'm going to shut up.
The second part, was it barrier?
Should be.
No, should be.
What is your monthly goal? And what can CPS do to reach your goal, to help you reach your goal? And who buys your cars at auction? Because
what do you like about ours, Sue?
Because we have specific cars that they get discounts on, and it's helpful if they take that list with them. The person buying the car should know about that. They should know about the hot car list. They should know about what CPS is looking for when they go buy those cars.
Hit us with those 3 again one more time, Lisa.
what is your monthly goal? What can CPS do to help you reach your goal? I didn't put help in there, but, and who buys your cars at auction?
Okay, let's vote for a favorite out of those 3. The first 3, or the first one was, what is your monthly goal? So that's option 1. Option 2 is, what can CPS do to help you reach your goal? And option 3 is, who buys your cars at auction? Is that right? Mm-hmm. So those are 3 options. Who votes for option 1 as the best of those 3?
We always want to know what their goal is.
Who votes for option 2 is one of those 3? How can CPS help you with your goal? Who votes for option 3? Who buys your car at the auction? Whoa, okay, so we have more folks voting for option 3 from somebody else, from someone who voted for option 3. Why?
Because if they have the right cars, they'll get to their goal with CPS, and CPS can help them reach it.
Right, so they can buy specifically for CPS. It's a super good question. All these things are right. When we ask great questions, it adds to our credibility substantially.
Well,
Why is credibility important in this conversation? It builds trust. It gets the person to settle down. We set ourselves up as a trusted advisor, right? So go ahead, Lisa. You had a comment.
I was going to say, sometimes you have these dealers that they want CPS to help them, but the cars dictate. So every car they send over is an Audi or a Mercedes or the miles are high, and they're like, well, I don't understand. I'm like, you just gave me an Audi. That's why your fees are high. That's why we can't do this deal. This is not the car for us.
You gave me collateral that doesn't match the customer.
Right.
Right?
So, okay, so then the third one, which was it?
These are barriers. Thanks.
How well do you understand CPS programs? Because if you're giving us the right customer with the right structure, you'll be able to get this deal done.
Let me challenge that one if I could. What's a customer likely to say if you say to them, how well do you understand CPS program?
Very well.
Great. Why do they say to do that?
I've been doing it 20 years, I've been doing this a long
Right,
time.
because they're all experts, right? So how can we ask that question? What can we say to the customer to ask that question without asking exactly that question? Go for it, Michelle.
Tell me what a CPS deal is to you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Tell me what a CPS deal is to you. In your mind, what's a CPS deal look like? Right? It's good. It's a little bit of a loaded question because we're going to have to offer them some training after that. But we're going to promise them, we're going to say, hey, look, in 15 minutes I can go over exactly the types of deals you should be sending to us, what types of deals you shouldn't be sending to us, and what you can do to get us to budge on some of the restrictions to encourage us to take a deal. Right?
Thank you.
Boom, boom, boom. So now, what about payout questions? Give us one or two of those.
If you did more CPS deals, what would be the impact to you? And how would 10 more deals a month help you?
Okay, you've got two different options there, right?
Kind
If
of
you
the
did
same
more CPS
thing,
deals- Okay, they're similar, right?
Yeah.
If you did more CPS deals, what would be the impact to you? Or, what was the second one?
how would 10 more deals a month help you?
Which of those two options would you rather ask a customer? Option A, who votes for that? Option B, who votes for that? So landslide, option B has it. Why?
Specific goal, specifically.
So it gets to their specific goal rather than how CPS can benefit. Do they care about how CPS benefits?
No.
Is that fair?
Yes.
It is, right? It is what it is, right? I mean, how many of us have been on an airline in the last year or 2 years? Okay, do you really feel like you owe it to Delta, or United, or US Air, or JetBlue to fly with them?
No.
Do you have any loyalty whatsoever?
No.
Hopefully we're somewhere past that, right? But most of our customers are probably somewhat close to that concept. They don't really care who funds it. It's our job to help them care who funds it and help make their lives easier, right? Let's give Lisa's group and Lisa. Lisa, was this helpful for you?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good. And that's the most important thing. So now hopefully all of us have a pretty good understanding of how this can work, right? And why the questioning system that we've just taught will help you. My suggestion to you is if you have very little time before that big presentation or big call coming up, like happened to me yesterday, if you have very little time left over prepared, do two things. Do a little bit of research about them or about their dealership or about their history and write down 2 to 3 good questions. Don't start thinking about what you're going to try to sell them. That's going to come naturally to you. You're all experts at that. Right?
No.
Instead, think about what questions to ask. What more can I know about them? Go to that. Okay. Most people, that's where you'll beat 99% of other sales professionals. If you've taken the time to research them a little further, and you've taken the time to ask really good questions, you're going to set yourselves apart. And they will come to have the kind of loyalty that people do to those groups that really take care of them. Make sense? Okay, so that's questions. Now, here we are, like 3 days into a sales program. How much time have we spent together so far, Bruno? Like nearly 12 hours. Have we sold anything yet?
No.
How come?
We're still training him.
We're still doing research.
In the training, have we sold anything yet?
Yeah.
Information.
Yeah, knowledge, information.
Yeah. Knowledge.
That's kind of, my suggestion to you is that by now your sale is made. You haven't told them a thing yet. Other than who you are, how you've helped other customers, you've asked them a bunch of questions. Right now, your sale is made. It's yours to lose. How are you going to lose it? By not following up, by not asking questions, by talking too much, right? The safe place is the questions. The dangerous place is the solution, right? If we ask great questions, then we know how we can solve the problem. We did a training like this with Best Buy. Have you ever been to Best Buy?
Yeah.
What's the last thing you bought from Best Buy? Scott, do you remember anything you bought from that place?
Video game.
Okay, movies. Who's made a large purchase from a Best Buy in the last year or two? What'd you buy, Jerry? Okay, laptop. What about over here? What'd you buy?
Camera.
I forgot your first name. I'm so sorry. It's Chris.
Corey.
Corey. Okay, Chris. Corey. Go for it,
Nice
Corey.
curved TV, but I was drunk.
Hey, look, it's our time off. We've got a multitask. So you went in there and you bought a nice curved TV. It was you were having a good day, and so tell us about like what happened. Like what happened in the course of that sale.
Didn't look curved
Pretty
at the time.
I didn't really see anybody. I grabbed my own dolly, went up there, threw it on the dolly, grabbed a couple other items, grabbed to the register.
So in his case, a salesperson could have actually helped him, right? In fact, that's true with most customers as well. A salesperson can actually help if they ask good questions. Imagine this, if you will, for a second. How many of us have been to the doctor in the last 2 years? Right? For those of you whose hands aren't raised, go see a doctor for God's sake. It's your health. But can you imagine this? Like, so if you went to a doctor, and I'm just going to play this out with with Adriana. If you can stand up for a second, let's give Adriana a round of applause. Were you one of the ones whose hands was raised for the doctor?
Yes.
If you can tell us what type of doctor it was, please tell us what type.
Just a generic doctor.
Okay, generic, perfect. So it's like your general practitioner.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to be the doctor. What's your doctor's last name? Well, you don't have to say the last name. What's a good fake last name for the doctor?
Dr. Jones.
I'll be Dr. Jones, okay? And she's going to be Adriana, okay? Here's how this is going to go. Let's play this out real quick. Okay, so Adriana, it's good to see you again.
Oh, nice seeing you too.
Thank you so much. What seems to be the trouble today?
My throat's been hurting.
You need Viagra. And that's what happens. How ridiculous is that?
All right.
So instead, what has to happen? What seems to be the trouble today?
My throat's been hurting.
Oh, and for how long?
About a week.
And have you had any kind of a fever with that?
Yes. For 2 days.
I'm sorry, and about how high has your fever been?
About over 100.
Do you mind if we go ahead and take your temperature now?
Sure.
Right, and now you can see where this is going to go. Now I have a chance of diagnosing your problem. Let's give her a quick round of applause. And yet, this is what happens in so many of our sales, right? So now we know to ask these great questions. Hopefully at this point, we have an idea of what solution we might want to propose to this particular customer. So flip with me all the way to the end of the chapter, and we'll go back and fill in the blanks here. Go to page 316. Thanks. Who said that? Who's that? It is Christmas time. What? So on page 316 is something called a solution unit. Okay? So please write your buyer's name across the top of that page. The person that we've been practicing with, the person who you filled out the card for, write their name. Just their first name is fine. Now please write down one or two of those buyers' needs. It could be what they want, or maybe their buying criteria, down the left-hand column where it says need. Just write down a couple of them. What do you think they need? And you may have to imagine this. If you don't know the customer very well yet, that's okay. We're going to practice with a possible solution. In the real world, you're going to ask great questions, and that's going to give you time to think of how to present your solution. A few seconds to write down one or two of the needs that you're trying to resolve. It's Corey, right? Okay, sorry about that. I would have been shopped at Best Buy with him.
Give me a TV, Corey.
Probably drove too.
So Ray, who's your buyer and what are a couple of the needs you highlighted for him or her?
My buyer's Lou,
Lou?
and of course, he wants to sell more units,
Okay.
and he wants to solidify his position.
What does solidify his position mean?
He wants to have that job for a long period of time.
Okay, so we kind of got to a dominant buying motive. It's about, not about preservation, but like about success for him, right? So starting to get towards success, it turns out to be about security, nicely said, right? That's great. And so let's think about Lou for a second. What's the first thing that you're going to present to Lou?
Well, it's kind of difficult because the next call is about a return.
Okay.
So, what I'm going to present to him is my ability to go the extra mile on any deal he presents. If there is an issue, I'll address it as soon as I'm aware of it. And if I can, I'll do what he needs, and I'll see if I can get those exceptions he needs to make the deals he needs to solidify his position.
So you want to return this deal to him in such a way that he's still going to want to keep doing business with you and come back for more?
Absolutely.
Is that right? Okay. So what's the first fact you're going to need to present to him then? And it says fact on that page, right? What's the first fact you're going to have to present to him then?
As it relates to the return, that his customer wasn't truthful with him. It wasn't.
Okay. Now, let's get clear on that for a second. Luke, would you mind coming up for a minute? Let's give Lou a huge round of applause if we can. You're not Lou, you're ready. Come on up for a second. Let's give him one more huge round of applause. So we're going to turn back to back, all right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to hear this presentation, okay? I'm going to be Lou, he's going to be Ray, all right? Now, if anyone feels like we need a timeout, what should you do? Timeout, right? You can call a timeout for any reason. You can call a timeout to give Ray a little bit of advice, or you can call a timeout to give me a piece of advice. You can call a timeout for any reason. Just be sure to call timeout when you think we need it. Good? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the phone when he says ring, ring, and I'll be Lou.
Ring, ring.
Hi, this is Lou.
Hey, Lou, it's Ray, CPS Auto Finance. How you doing today?
Hey, Ray, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Listen, I'm calling you about that deal we discussed recently. I wanted to let you know that that deal actually didn't turn out to be a deal.
Oh. What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is that actual deal is going to be returned to you. Reason,
Ray.
I know. But the reason is, you had...
Look, you said clean deals fund fast.
Absolutely.
This is a clean deal I sent you.
Well, it actually wasn't a clean deal.
Oh, how so?
Well, we found that the customer doesn't live at the actual residence that they said they lived in.
Really?
Yes.
Like, how different? You mean like they got a wrong digit in the zip code or what?
Like they live somewhere else.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Also, in
Wait,
addition,
how are you positive? How can you know where they live?
well, because we have a crack staff that's able to find those things out. What I mean by that is that they put down that they lived at this specific address, and we found that it wasn't that address.
And the rent.
How's he doing? I've got a timeout over here, so let's hit timeout real quick. Let's give him a quick round of applause. What do you got?
I think when you call to notify them about the return, instead of saying, hey, your deal's getting returned, I would say, hey, we're working on this deal. This came up, this fell apart. Can you take a look into it on your side? As of now, it's under review for return. If you can give me additional information, try to seem proactive, like you're going to try to do something.
I like that.
Yeah. That's a totally good approach.
You know, then they'll call you back, oh, you're right. This is what happened.
So maybe we don't have to tell him no. Maybe we can tell him no without telling him no.
Not on
What
this
you're saying,
deal.
right? Okay. What's another piece of it? Another suggestion? Go for it.
We got bad information from the start.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just got information that we can't work with, so we need to return it to you and get your help at correcting the information or making a decision that it's not worth your time.
We don't.
Right? Go for it, Michael.
I think you did a good job. I think with a little bit more specific on the proof of residence when the dealer asked, you know, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, I got a crackdown stat, I'd give a little bit more proof.
Specific.
Yeah, a little bit more proof on what's going on. Maybe saying the customer said they're living in a hotel or whatever the case may be. Get more proof there, or we call the landlord from there and he doesn't live in that address.
What questions did you ask me in that call? We kind of didn't, right? So here's the thinking. Let's give Ray one more round of applause. If we want to keep doing deals with him, we're going to need to ask a few more questions before we jump into the bad news, right? Or we can say, look, hey, I've got to give you some tough news first. Need to ask you a few questions as well, just to understand how things are going for you. Which do you want to hear first? We can do something like that. That's fine. Not saying that's exactly the way to do it. It's just an approach. Maybe a more pressing question for you is, how many of us are familiar with the name Anderson Spider Silva? Okay, now, guys who are raised their hands, I don't think any women raised their hands. Did they? Any women who said Anderson Spider Silva? Okay, you are. Who's Anderson Spider Silva?
Yeah.
Okay, was he a good UFC fighter or a bad UFC fighter?
Great.
I don't know about
Some
that.
people might say he was the greatest of all time. Some people would argue that, right? Joe Rogan at one time, Joe Rogan is one of the announcers on the Ultimate Fighting Championship, has called Anderson Silva the greatest of all time.
Striker at least.
What's that?
Greatest striker at least.
And yeah, I mean, so this is definitely one of the top fighters, probably of history, right? Now, Anderson Silva was famous for a lot of different stuff. He was famous for the way that he lost when his career kind of went the wrong direction. But at his peak, he was famous for fighting in a certain way. When he would come into the ring, what would he do?
Oh, like a spider.
He did, right? He crawled into the ring like a spider, right? And then when he would get in the fight, the bell would ring, and then what would he do?
Just chillax.
Smile a little bit, maybe moonwalk, right? He would do something. That wasn't a very good moonwalk, I know. I'm not Spider, just to be clear on that. Right? But he would get in there and he would kind of move around a little bit. He would feel the person out. Now, I don't know Anderson Spider Silva, but I know the first champion he beat. His name is Rich Franklin. Rich Franklin is a Dale Carnegie graduate. Okay? In fact, Rich Franklin is a Dale Carnegie graduate from Dale Carnegie Training of Orange County. Right? So I got to work with Rich. It's been probably 3 or 4 years. Rich was the UFC middleweight champion of the world. His championship was taken by Anderson Spider Silva, very dramatically. In fact, Rich had his nose broken twice by Anderson, right? So, a couple things you should know about Rich Franklin. First is that Rich is a Dale Carnegie graduate, which I've already told you. Second is that he now has a charity called Fighters for the World. And the reason he came to us is to learn how to present Fighters for the World in a more attractive way to people who could be potential sponsors for that charity. And so we worked with him. If you ever want to learn more about Rich Franklin, go to YouTube and type in Rich Franklin TED Talk. Because that's the TED Talk he gave that we prepared him for here locally in the office. Okay? But the other last thing you should know about Rich is that Rich has enormous respect for Anderson Silva. And what he said was really special about Anderson is when Anderson would step in the ring, he knew who you were in seconds. Right? So he would step in the ring, and he would get a feeling for you. Smile, dance a little bit, move around a little bit, he'd go like this. He wouldn't even punch at you. And then what would happen? Bow! And the guy was knocked out. Right? And he did it over and over and over and over again. The reason he was able to do that is because he asked questions in the ring. Now, you can't actually ask him, and if he'd walked up and said, so how are you doing today? You might not have heard it over the cheers, but that's what he was doing with his body language. Because that particular technique is the most powerful technique in all of selling. It's the most powerful technique in all of human communications. The strong question. So in that call, even if you know what you've got to tell him, let's be sure we ask him a couple of good questions first. Go to that, right? Then you might find yourself becoming one of the greatest of all time. And that's what can happen in phone sales when we ask amazing questions. So you've got that set up. Your solution is the punch. Your solution needs to be that well refined and crisp. And once you've delivered that snappy punch, you better check to make sure it landed. We call that a trial close. Who's ever heard of that before? What's a trial close, Danny?
Well, trial close is where you just throw something out there, like get them to commit. It's like a feeler. That's more or less what it is. So you're going to just say, oh, so are we going to close that deal? Then you wait for a response. They're either going to say yes or no, or they're going to lead from there.
You're just taking the temperature, right? What Anderson Silva would do as his trial close is like this. He would go over to the person who was knocked out and he'd be like this. Everybody would cheer, right? That's an okay trial close too. I would call that a more permanent type of close. A trial close is taking the temperature of the deal, right? As Danny would say. I'll give you my only joke of the day. A trial close also happens to be what Judge Judy wears to work.
I love that show. We get it.
That's a Bret Hot's trademark, so you can credit me for that one. That's right. So trial close just takes the temperature. There's silent trial closes. There's trial closes with gestures. There's trial closes in the form of a question. So a trial close on a phone might be just like, it might just be silence after you presented your solution. What I thought we could do is we could offer you about a 10-minute session where we'll explain to you exactly what types of deals CPS won't take, what types of deals we prefer, and what you can do to improve the chances of a deal coming through. And that was my silent trial close, and I heard a couple of, yeah, sounds good. I saw a couple of heads shaking, right? I could have added in a more specific trial close. What do you think?
Yeah.
Make sense? So that's what we're trying to create. So thinking about your buyer on page 316, you thought about the need. Let's think about a couple of facts and what's going to be the benefit to them, or what is that fact going to mean to them, and write that in the benefit column. So a couple of facts and then the benefits. Also fill out trial close. Like, what do you intend to say to them as a trial close? Could be, what do you think? Am I on the right track? How does that sound? Will this work for you? Those are all trial closes. Don't write down verbatim what you're going to say to them. Just some ideas about what you're going to say, how you're going to solve the problem. What's your fact? What's your benefit? How does it apply to them? So Lou, as it turned out, some of the information that the customer reported to us wasn't accurate. And that's according to our background check. And so we're going to need to ask your help in correcting that, or making a decision that this might not be the right customer. Would you like to work on correcting it, or would you like to should we not spend any more time on this particular customer? Okay, great. If you'd like to correct it, here's the 3 things we need from you. We need an updated home address because the one we've got is not accurate, if that's correct. We need a new background check, and we need a payment stub from the last 2 months. Does that make sense, Lou? Okay, good. That's all there is to it. Think about your solution. Application is just what it will do for that specific customer. This is how it will apply to you, right? So it's just something you can add. Instead of just the benefit, you could say, this is how it will help you, Lou, right? Hey, Lou, we're here for you. We're going to always respond quickly. And if we're missing some information, we're going to tell you that, give you the chance to correct it. And if it can't be corrected, then at that point we'll say we can't provide this loan. But that'll save you time and it'll make it efficient for you.
Go to HR and say, where's my mom?
So the only piece that we're missing on this page is evidence. At Dale Carnegie, we say evidence defeats doubt. And what we mean by that specifically is that different types of evidence can help compel Different types of evidence can compel a customer to make a certain decision. So those types of evidence would be a demonstration, an exhibit, additional facts, an example, an analogy, a testimonial, or statistics. By the way, you don't have to remember any of that stuff, even though we gave that handy acronym, evidence defeats doubt. Those are all listed for you on page 314. So think about what evidence you might provide to that person. So you're giving them that solution. Think about how you might make that solution even stronger with some evidence. Could be a demo, could be some additional facts about that particular customer, could be an exhibit. You could send back the background report. It could be an analogy, right? Putting this person in an Audi is like trying to sell a rocket to a 4-year-old. Maybe you wouldn't use that analogy, but you could use an analogy, right? Testimonial or statistics. 97% of our customers who apply get through. This one didn't. I know that's not an accurate statistic, but you can use this as, right? So think about what form of evidence you can use with your solution unit to straighten that out.
Gavin, did you hear me?
I don't know.
Like you always do.
And this is all for that one buyer we've been working on. Stories, where do stories fit in? Stories would be like an example.
I like to give stories, yeah.
Stories are great. No, just make a few notes to yourself. Sue asked, hey, do I have to write out the story completely? No. Aaron says yes, so yes. You don't have to write it whole story. So now on this page, on what page were we on? 316, you should have a pretty close to filled out page. You've also got a whole set of questions earlier. What we're going to do in a moment is we're going to practice this whole thing. So we're going to find a partner, like I think we said Mimi was going to partner with Joey, right? So find a partner who you think can help you. Okay, you'll be doing that in just a minute. You'll tell them a little bit about your situation. You'll decide who's going to go, you'll decide who's going to go first. Then you'll tell them a little bit about who you're selling to. You'll make a phone call. You'll introduce yourself. You'll give a power phrase of some sort, right? Something to get their attention. Then you'll ask some good questions. Could be some of those as-is, should-be, barrier, payout questions. And then you'll offer your solution and ask for the deal. Are we ready to go ahead? Are we ready to go forward? Or can you send me those materials now? Good? Partners. For those of you who are going to play the buyer, if you're going to play the dealer, be friendly in this situation. Okay? If you're going to talk fast, if your dealer's going to talk really fast, then you should talk really fast too. Right? But you should be friendly to them. We're going to work on handling objections or hesitations next week. So what I mean is, be open to the solution that that person presents to you. You don't have to buy it, but be open to it. Then you're going to give the person a little bit of feedback and we're going to switch roles. Sound good? How long is our average call like this at CPS, would you say?
3 minutes.
I heard 3 minutes from Danny. Let's make it just a little bit longer. Let's make it 4 minutes each.
Okay.
Sound good with that? Who has the first question before we practice with a partner? a question that sometimes comes up is this an important practice? And what I would just remind you of is that next week, whoever does the best job with this is going to get a chance to win $500. Good with that?
Very important.
So let's go ahead and find partners in practice. I've got 8 minutes on the timer.
You want to pair with him? You two want to pair together? John?
Okay. So my dealer is one that I actually called in November, and she actually